Welcome to Short Scale Modelling. This is part 11 of the Airfix Hellcat 1 to 24 scale. In part 10 I dealt with the air and put in some more pipes and the cowling for near the prop. In part 11 I shall be painting the aircraft and putting on the landing gear. So let's get into this. Just a couple of things to do before I go on to the landing gear and painting. There's some bars I have to go in over the engine onto the cowl and fuselage. They're primarily there just to hold the panels in if you place them on, but it's part of the aircraft, so I'm putting them on. There's 4 in total, and each has their own recess point, and they just sit in nicely, as you can see there. So I'm beginning with the main landing gear struts. There's 2 parts, and they're painted in XF71 cockpit green, and they just simply pushed together. Then I'm using Tamiya's Weather Master Series B, and I'm going to be using the suit component here. And I'm taking my brush sharpener, and I'm just running along the lines of the raised areas. So where the cables and pipes and so forth go. It's just to give them definition, really. The piston part of the strut is Revel Aquacolor 90 silver. That's just the little silver part right at the top there that you see, or right at the bottom. Onto the painting now, and first of all I have to mask off the white parts with 6mm Tamiya masking tape, and then I'm going on to XF2 flat white by Tamiya, and I'm just going over the edges of the tape with this colour. And what this does is it stops any paint bleed going through onto the white, so it's acting as a barrier. You can also use a clear varnish to do this as well, but I think it's better using the background colour that you've already laid down. I should point out though, you have to varnish your colour that you're putting the masking tape on, otherwise the colour will lift up from the tape. Going on to the underside, and I'm using Revel Aquacolor 59 Sky. The camera sort of washed out the colour a bit here, which was unfortunate. It was a bright sunny day, so you know, I didn't really pick it up. I will try and get a better shot so you can see the actual colour, but it's like a light green colour. So as you can see here, I'm just putting it on with a straight brush and long smooth strokes, but this is only the first coat. On the second coat, as you can see here, the colour looks a little bit better. I'm using a circular motion with my brush, and that's just a very light bit of paint on the brush and applying it. This eliminates brush strokes. It's the same technique I use when I'm painting my yellows. I do have a video of how I do it. Check it out on the channel if you haven't done so already. And you'll see the technique that I use for putting on these light colours. It really is an effective way to eliminate brush strokes when you're painting large areas like this. So now the paint is dry, it's time to remove the masking tape. Do this gently, making sure you're not pulling up any paint. If you varnished it, you shouldn't pull up any paint, but just be careful. And as you can see, there's very little paint bleed or none at all. I think on the wing I had a tiny little bit of paint bleed on the lower wing, this one here, if I remember correctly. So again, I'm just going to spin this around and take off the masking tape. Taking it off from the top side, first of all. When you put on the masking tape as well, it's always better to leave a tail. Fold it over a little bit, so then it's easier just to grab and pull off. That way, well, it's just easier. So pulling it off, there's a tiny bit of paint blade right at the end when it didn't quite match up, got a seal on the masking tape. So now all the underside paint is dried, it's time to varnish the lines now where the next tone is going to be meeting them. So first of all, I'm putting in the clear varnish, and that's Pledge Polish Clear. And again, this just helps secure the paint from lifting up when you put the masking tape on. For my next mask, I'm using Tamiya's 2mm masking tape for curves for the sideline here. Now the reason why I'm using the curve tape is because near the tail wing the pattern sweeps into a curve, so it's better using this tape to start off with. It bends very easily, and that's what it's designed for. It's a bit difficult to show you on camera because of the angle though. And once that's on, I'm going back to the Tamiya 6mm masking tape, the normal masking tape, and I'm just laying it on the outside edge. Now the reason why I'm doing that is because when I paint, obviously I don't want to go onto the sky blue colour. So I'm just making sure I've got enough masking tape on so that doesn't happen. I'm also putting another coat of varnish on here because the one thing about the Tamiya curve tape is sometimes it doesn't adhere all that well to the plastic. So I put an extra bit of varnish on just to make sure that it's going to act as a block. So like the underside of the wings, I'm just painting the edges with the undercolor. So that's the Tamiya's XF2 flat white, and they're exactly treated as the underside of the wing. Onto the camo now, and the first colour is Red Aquacolor 46 Native Olive. Now the camo I've chosen to do the variant is the Fleet Air Arm, and I decided to do that because to me it's more interesting than the normal deep blue that you get with the Hellcat. So I do quite like this variant. I should point out on the line markings here for the side, I didn't put the base colour on over the tape, just the varnish. That's because of the nature of the pattern, and of course I do it freehand as well. I don't follow a specific pattern. I just look at the paint sheet and go from there. So it's better just to have the varnish as the paint block for paint blade. It works just as well. Sometimes you do get a little bit of paint blade, but not much. So I should say as well, while painting over this tape, try not to brush up into the tape. Always brush from the tape onto the surface where your paint is going to go. So that way you're not lifting up the tape in any way by accident. Even a minute little uplift will allow for a bit of paint bleed. So always brush from the tape onto the surface where the pigment's going to go. So now the first colour dry, it's time to move on to the next, and that's Velvet Aquacolor 79 Greyish Blue. Now these colours, I should add, are not 100% match for the true markings of the aircraft in real life. It's the closest match I was able to find with the paints I have. If you've watched my videos before, you know that I do not like mixing paint. I do it occasionally, but as a rule, I really don't like doing it. So this is the closest match I've got, and some of the reference photos I've seen, it's almost there. It's just maybe a tone darker or lighter depending how you look at it, and depending how the light obviously is showing in the photograph you're looking at. So if you're wondering if you're thinking this is not quite right, it's because it's the best match I was able to come up with. Onto the colours for the machine guns now. There's a bar, and initially it's painted an XF71 cockpit green, and this is for the end part of the bar, and I think this is just a stabilising bar. For the bar itself, it's Velvet Aquacolor 91 steel, and that's for the main bar. The bar itself sits diagonally over the opening. There's two recess points that it just sits into. It shouldn't protrude above the opening. It should sit quite flush. So next is to put on the covers. Now I'm using here Tamiya's Weathering Series E and the green component, and I'm just going over the ridges on the underside of this cover. And the underside itself is painted in the XF71 cockpit green by Tamiya. And the cover just sits on the lip right at the front of the plane and hangs over the wing. That's of course if you're having them open. There is another set available on the sprue if you're just having them closed. Moving over to the prop, and I'm using Mr. Hobby H28 metallic metal black for the blades of the prop. I've masked off the tips for the yellow, and I'm just painting the blades in a sweeping motion, as you can see here. And then it's back to the main aircraft and just pulling it off the masking tape here, so it's a nice clean sharp line. So you can see the camo coming into its own now. Same with the bottom of the tail wing here. So taking off the masking tape on the side part of the fuselage, and I noticed stupidly the curve on the camo where the tail is, I actually put it the wrong way around. It should have been more into the wing than actually coming out of the wing. So I'll readdress that later on. So next time you see this part, it will be the proper way. So it's time to put in the landing gear. From the start, I would say that this landing gear fits fantastically. The bracket that this part sits in, it's nice and flat and just goes straight in, and there's enough area around it to hold it. So there's no worry about it not taking the weight of the plane. Once the main strut is in, the supporting piston goes in. There's a little recess point just inside where it fits into before button up into the strut. So we just turn it around and you can maybe see it there. So next part is the two little hinges that go in. They fit really nicely. Sometimes when you're fitting these, the connections can be horrible, but on these they just pushed in without any problem before marrying them up to form that sort of V shape that you get. Onto the covers. There's three location points here for the to attach to the strut. You can see them there, and the best guiding part is just above the strut. You can see where it goes into the strut. If you click in the bottom first, then just lay it up onto the top, then it should all fit in nicely. Next cover just fits in the lip in front of the strut. You can have this in various positions if you want. Onto the wheels, and the tyres painted in UA734 dirty black and rubber shades before marrying up to bond them. It's quite an easy thing to bond. There's three recessing location points just to help you guide them in. Next is to make up the centre part, and these are painted in Revel Aqua 91 steel for the inner part. The outer part, or the hubcap, is 90 silver, and they just lie on top of each other really. However, I did have a problem when coming to push these in. They're extremely tight, and I had to use quite a bit of force to get them in. As you can see there, I'm really struggling to get them in. I had to put a lot of pressure just to put them in, and in the end I had to tap them in place with my file, just an extra bit of weight to get them in. So like that. Just be careful though, because I did manage to damage one while doing this. I put on too much pressure. I don't mind so much because that sort of goes in with the way I'm doing the aircraft, how it looks. When you're putting them on, make sure the flat bit's at the bottom, obviously, because that's simulating the weight of the aircraft onto the tyre. So it's onto the back part of the landing gear, and there's the wheels just two halves put together, and then that just pops onto its housing. There's a middle section that goes on before you close off the strut for the housing, and this is the support bar that will fit into the aircraft. There is a recess point for it to fit in. Just dry fit it first to make sure that you have the right angle. Look at the instructions as well, because you don't want to get this the wrong way around. And then once it's in, you just close off the strut by placing the top half on. Put it in the wheel first, and it should just line up onto the stem of the strut. You may have to just hold it for a few minutes to make sure it's closed up. There's two small coverings, and these go directly onto the strut as well. There is a well-defined location point for them, but make sure you get them on the right angle before you place the unit inside the model. I found it helpful holding with a bit of locking tweezers before placing the second part. It is a smaller part of the covering. Although you can't see it because of the camera angle, to place it in, the supporting strut goes through the tiny bulkhead which was placed in near the start of the build, and the two prongs just clip on the top of it. Well, I'm going to bring part 11 to a close now. Got more done than I thought I was going to. So if you haven't done so already, why don't you check out the channel for the other parts to this build. And of course, have a look at the channel of my other builds. Subscribe to that channel for any updates, including updates for this build. Hit that like button, and of course leave a comment. But for now, thank you all very much for watching. Bye bye.